Hey guys, it's me Mr. 250, and welcome back to Higurashi. So, let's see. We are definitely running out of fragments to go through left. There's still a handful here, but, you know, it's definitely becoming less. So now it's more becoming, what hasn't happened yet. Satoko Hojo's aunt hasn't died as far as I'm aware. Has the bat thing come up yet? No, bat thing's not available yet. The high fever might be a thing. Yes, okay. Takano-san always comes along with me whenever I go to take pictures on a stroll. She might have discovered the joy of cameras, and I'm happy to gain a friend who shares the same hobby. However, there's actually something else she's much more interested in. That would be the history of Hinamizawa. She frequently visited libraries and local archives to read through various documents and books. And when it comes to Hinamizawa, she's gained quite extensive knowledge of the local history. When she's in a good mood, she tells me about things like how Hinamizawa used to be called Onikafuchi Village, and how the villagers there used to perform various cruel ceremonies based around the worship of Oyashiro-sama. It seems she loved the tales of violence, and that actually gave her a mysterious charm. On the other hand, I don't do well with grotesque things, so I can hardly say anything in response. The stories of cruel ceremonies that she gets excited about, I don't really get them all that well. However, with the way her eyes light up when she talks, I don't mind spending time with her, even if I have to hear about cruel things.
高野さんはそういうのを調べるのが好きだね。
あら、だって楽しいわよ。封印された過去の暗黒史を紐解くなんて、とてもワクワクすることだとは思わない？
Takano-san smiled in a way that almost made it sound like a dark past is something fun. But of course it isn't. The dark history of Hinamizawa that she loves is something cruel and atrocious, like the witch hunt in the Middle Ages.
それに、南沢症候群を調べる上でもとても役立つことなのよ。何も顕微鏡を除くことだけが調べることになるとは限らない。この寄生虫と長い時間を過ごしてきたこの村の伝承の方がよっぽど重要な何かを教えてくれることもあるんだから。
それもそうだね。うん。高野さんは本当に研究熱心だよな。
だって研究こそ私のライフワークだもの。未知の神秘に踏み込み、誰も知らなかった秘密を暴くことってとっても楽しいことだとは思わない？知的好奇心をうずうずさせてくれる。それは多分考えることに悦を感じることができる人間だけに許された最高の娯楽だと思うの。この研究の第一人者だった高野先生も南沢症候群の研究に生涯を捧げるだけの何かを見出し、その魅力に取りつかれていたに違いないでしょうね。多分私だけがそんな高野先生の気持ちを理解してると思うの。研究者でない二郎さんには難しいかしら。
She always seems so enthusiastic every time she talks about the late Dr. Takano, an independent researcher who was the first person to discover the existence of the syndrome. There is to be something more there than just her admiration as a researcher. Come to think of it, Dr. Takano's full name was Hifumi Takano. Takano-san's full name is Mio Takano. Not only are their last names pronounced the same, but their first names follow a similar pattern. They must be connected somehow. I don't know anything about Takano-san's personal history, but there's a good chance that her name is an alias. So it's very possible she chose a name to reflect the researcher she admires.
なるほど。 ひょっとして高野さんはだからミオという名前なのかい？いや、高野さんが尊敬しているその先生の名前が確か高野一二三、そして高野さんの名前がミオ。123の後を引き継いで34。彼が成し遂げられなかった研究を引き継いだから、そういう名前なのかなって思ってね。
それを誰かに聞いたの？
いや今僕が適当に考えただけなんだよ。別に誰かが言ってたわけじゃ。
正解よ。鈍い二郎さんにしてはよくわかったわね。
いや、高野さんがその高野先生をとても尊敬しているのは知ってたし、まるで自分が実の娘か孫で研究の正当な後継者だというような感じで言っていることがあったからね。なんとなくそんな気がしただけなんだよ。作家のペンネームだってほら、尊敬する作家のオマージュで名前を付けることもあるし、なら高野美代って名前もペンネームみたいなものなのかなって思って。
そんなことはないわよ。高野美代は本名よ。もっとも高野の高は鳥の高じゃなくて、高い低いの高が正しいけれど。
じゃあ高野先生とは本当は同じ名字なのかい？そりゃますますびっくりだね。しかも美代が本名とは。高野一二三の研究を高野美代が継ぐ。なんだか運命的偶然を感じるね。
二郎さんたら運命的だなんて大げさな。別に運命でも何でもないのよ。だって。
This is news to me. I heard Takano-san discovered documents about the Hinamizawa syndrome left by Dr. Takano after his death and decided to continue his research. I've never heard of them being related before.
祖父の研究を引き継ぐために予算をというと、まるで身内びいきのために予算を引っ張ろうとしているように見えて、印象が良くないというふうに助言をしてくれる人がいたので、高の一文字を変えたからなの。だから人前で高野先生が私の祖父だと話したのは小泉。
そうだったのかい。なるほどね。君がひなみ沢症候群の研究に入江所長も驚くほどの情熱を見せる理由がちょっとだけ分かったよ。
I understand very clearly now. She really did inherit the work of her grandfather, or the work her grandfather was unable to complete.
祖父も医学的見地からだけでなく、古文書などの文献からもひなみ沢症候群を探っていたの。ひなみ沢症候群と何百年にもわたって共にあった村の文献を調べることは、何百倍もの倍率を持つ顕微鏡を除くより価値があり得るというのは、祖父が私に教えてくれたことなの。
なるほどね。だとしたら自分の完成できなかった研究をこれだけ立派に引き継いでくれたおじいさんはきっと喜んでいるだろうね。こんなに熱心な孫に引き継ぐ
そうだといいわね。
I said something Takano-san would normally tease me about, but she didn't. She nodded and smiled. There's no mistake. She is indeed the granddaughter of Dr. Takano.
祖父がひふみで123、私はミオで34。私は祖父を継ぎ、ようやく3を共に数えたに過ぎない。そして祖父の次の4を数え、私も祖父もまだ見ぬ5へ至らなければならない。それが私の使命であり、生まれてきた理由でもあ
る。それでミオという名前なんだね。素敵な名前だと思うよ。
ありがとう。 私が孫だという話は内緒にしてほしいの。クライアントの人たちにも言っていないから。耳に入って痛くもない腹を探られたくないので。
うん、分かったよ。これは僕と高野さんの秘密ということで。
Although it's only a small secret, it feels good to think that I'm the only one who knows about it.
私はようやく3を数えただけ。まだ4にすら至っていない。研究の道のりはまだまだ険しく長いけれど、私は最後までやり抜くわ。必ずひなみ沢症候群の秘密を暴く。
僕もそれを応援するよ。もともとそれが僕の役割だしね。
もうそういう余計なことを言わなければ十分かっこいいのに。一言応援するって言ってくれればいいのよ。
するよ。君を応援する。
二度言い直してもダメね。一回で言えなくちゃかっこよくはならないわね。
We laughed cheerfully together. And after we finished laughing, she became serious again and spoke as if to drive the point home.
だから二郎さん、くれぐれも私が孫だって言わないようにね。
言わないよ。約束する。
孫だからいけないということはないけれど、クライアントがそれを知って不快に思ったら予算を切られるようなことがあるかもしれない。
そんなことはないと思うよ。第一、僕は喋らないしね。
絶対よ。本当の本当に絶対よ。私はこの研究のために命をもらったの。祖父の研究を完成させることだけが私の使命。踏みにじられた研究が世界を驚かす偉大なものであったことを証明し、土の下で朽ちる祖父をたたえさせ、神に昇華させること。それだけが私の生きる理由であり目的なの。もしそれを邪魔するような不用意な言葉をあなたがうっかり漏らして研究に支障が出たならば。
大丈夫だよ。ここで聞いた話は忘れるよ。
Don't worry, you'll definitely forget.
本当さ。いや、絶対に口外しない。僕は約束は守るよ。
Oh, don't worry.
絶対に言わない。
That's the only way.
絶対よ。
We'll have to make sure.
二郎さん。
I sensed something frightening within her for a moment. Afraid that she would end up possessed by it, I swore to keep the promise. Her intellectual curiosity as a researcher and her conviction to complete her grandfather's work are what stirs her passion for researching Hinamizawa syndrome. I think there's one more reason, but it's far too deep, and it's within a wound in her heart that someone like me should never touch. But earlier, she said, if you create problems for my research, I wonder what she wanted to say after that. I can't help thinking she wanted to say something terrifyingly merciless. I kept my promise with her, and we never talked about the issue again after that. Because I never had the opportunity to talk about it after that. Or not. Maybe that doesn't mean anything. Of course it wouldn't. Okay, so we got the promise here. We got the bottle of wine for a toast, I believe. And I think we might have drafted the emergency manual. Let's give it a try. Yes, okay. It happened so suddenly. Uncle Koizumi passed away. I never heard he was ill or wasn't feeling well. His chest started to hurt suddenly, and he couldn't sleep. He called an ambulance for the first time in his life because he didn't think he could endure the pain. He was taken into emergency care, but he didn't live to see morning. It was an acute myocardial infarction, but maybe it was the best possible way to go. Instead of being in bed for many years, slowly dilapidating and withering away, he was healthy until his death, so I think he must have lived a wonderful life. But still, it was too sudden. I wish I'd called him Uncle more. It's too late, though. Uncle Koizumi would never smile at me again with his wrinkly old face, no matter how many times I called for him. He was my guardian until now. He always looked after me, making sure my efforts received proper recognition. Maybe he only did that because he couldn't help my grandfather when he was alive. But still, he was an important person to me. He wasn't just my political backing. But I didn't realize that when he was alive. I only thought of using his power for my own agenda. But after he died, I realized Uncle Koizumi was my grandpa too. He provided the warmth and protection that I longed for my own grandfather. At his funeral, I shed tears that I thought I forgot how to.
おじいちゃん、今までありがとう。もっとおじいちゃんって呼んであげればよかったね。
No matter how many times I called to him, he would never reply. What I can do for him at this point is complete my research. I must accomplish my goal for his sake. When my grandfather's research is finally acknowledged, Uncle Koizumi's name will be known once again for being the sole supporter of his endeavor. I believe that's the best way to repay him for everything he's done. I vow to devote myself to my work even more from this day on. But, unfortunately, hardships and sadness tend to come together. It was like the tailwind that blew steadily until today suddenly became a headwind. The wind shifted far too suddenly. So strong, so cold, so sad.
どういうことなの、次郎さん。
小泉先生が入江機関設立の立役者だったのは高野さんも知ってるよね。関係機関でなかなか承認の取れなかったのを小泉先生が強力に抑え込んで無理やり通させたって話なんだよ。何しろ医薬品業界で絶大な功績を挙げられた戦後日本復興の重鎮だからね。政財界に絶大な影響力を持たれていたし。
その小泉先生が亡くなって小泉先生が通した無理やりが通らなくなったということ。
あくまでも噂なんで本当のところは僕にもわからないんだけど、一部の予算配当やプロジェクトの見直しが行われるらしいというのを聞いたんだよ。
入江機関が廃止されるということ？
いや、入江機関を見直すというのは聞いたことないけど、ただ小泉先生の死後、長老たちの派閥や勢力、後継者争いがややこしくなっているってもっぱらの噂なんだ。すでにクライアントの人事にかなりの影響を与え始めてるらしいんだ。それで小泉派が主導していたプロジェクトや聖域予算に対し締め付けが行われるんじゃないかって憶測が飛び交ってるらしいんだよ。もちろんそれらは全て僕にとって雲の上の話だからね。伝え聞いた噂話でしかないんだけれど。
Jiro-san kept saying that there were rumors, but that told me the wind's direction has changed. Or maybe Jiro-san already knows everything and is simply trying to warn me about it. And then, at our next routine audit, Jiro-san made it clear with his own mouth. High-ranking government officials who had never come here before attended the routine audit along with Jiro-san. Just by seeing those faces, I can tell the turning point is approaching.
ご存知の通り、アルファベットプロジェクトは戦後日本の国際的な地位向上を目的としたものです。ですが、すでに昭和も50年代に至り、西暦は21世紀を間近にしております。
In this day and age, we must put the past behind us and start looking forward to a new world. He meant exactly what he said. Japan has already put the past behind, and it's cutting off its ties to the ghosts that wish to resurrect the militaristic might of pre-war era.
戦後40年間、我が国は世界への平和的貢献を模索し、国際的地位を確立するに至りました。日本は国際社会において重要なポジションを担う国家として成熟し、来世紀にはますますにその存在感を強めることでしょう。
The Alphabet Project, the main sponsor of the Area Institute, are a group of people who want to develop a weapon that would act as a deterrent to the nuclear weapons which Japan is forbidden to own. So they've come to the Area Institute, one of its branch organizations, to tell us Japan has now renounced nuclear arms. So the Area Institute will be facing a strong, cold headwind from now on. The roll of the die that came up with 1 in that stormy day has reappeared. I won't let the result of a die affect me. The power of my will won't be beaten by some god's roll of the dice.
よって現在時代に即した形になるようアルファベットプロジェクトの見直しを進めています。新生アルファベットプロジェクトは国際交流と経済発展の二軸からなる平和外交の見地から日本の地位向上を模索していくことになるでしょう。
All of the people who hold tremendous influence in the politics and economy of Japan were born before the war, so naturally they want to regain the glory of pre-war Japan. The very idea that we can win next time if we research the new bomb that defeated us is itself a specter of the war. No, everyone already realized that. It was just that no one could speak out against the grandstanding elders they owed their gratitude towards. Soon the old will wither away, and the new generation will take control. Uncle Koizumi was, in a way, the last remaining pillar for the old generation. His death is a chance for the new generation to step in. The things they couldn't argue openly are now being discussed. They pointed out that from the beginning, the Alphabet Project was created for the personal satisfaction of a small group of people, and it sucked money out of the treasury. And so the new generation of politicians have taken over from the old.
よってアルファベットに関わるすべてのプロジェクトで今後大幅な予算の見直しが図られていくことになります。これはもちろん入江機関も例外ではありません。どうかご了解をいただけますようよろしくお願いいたします。
わかりました。私たちもスポンサーあっての研究です。どうかよろしくお願いいたします。
Irie responded appropriately, but he's obviously bewildered. The best equipment and staff are being provided to the Irie Institute. In other words, our research requires a huge amount of money. For those with no interest in Hinamizawa syndrome, they probably won't be able to understand why that much money is being put into the research of disgusting parasites. If they're simply going to revise their budget, that would be fine. We were receiving more than enough money. That would naturally be adjusted. It hurts, but we can endure. That's what I thought. But if just enduring it was enough, it wouldn't be a 1 in the die. So even in that sense, this is definitely a roll of a die coming up as 1.
でありまして、この4月に新体制の理事会が発足し、全プロジェクトに対する新方針が示されました。これにつきましては、お配りします資料をご覧ください。
His papers were then passed around. He started to go over the details, but I read through quickly so I could learn about their stupid decisions first.
入江機関はこれまで先進的な研究において数々の目覚ましい成果を上げられ、未知であったひなみ沢症候群の全貌解明、そして治療薬の開発を成し遂げました。理事会でもこの成果は大変に高く評価しています。これもすべて入江所長以下入江機関全職員のたゆみない努力によるものと思っております。
いえ、恐縮です。
Even while I received their congratulations, a tense atmosphere surrounded me and Irie. It's customary to start the conversation in the opposite way you're planning to take it, before delving into your main point to convey. If the main issue is something good, then start with something bad. Or vice versa.
入江機関の研究目的は2つありました。ひなみ沢症候群の研究と治療法の確立、そして多面運用の模索です。新生理事会はこの後者の多面運用の模索については即時の中止を決定しました。これらの研究開発が国内で行われていた事実と痕跡は今後はむしろアキレス腱になりかねません。入江機関は直ちにこれに関わるすべての研究を中止し一切を破棄してください。
わかりました。ご指示に従います。
Irie replied with that immediately. Irie was assertive about finding a cure, but was never even remotely interested in researching the diseases used for military purposes. So I'm sure he has no qualms about concurring with such demands. But I don't agree, because our research will be more limited if we're just trying to find a cure. To me, finding that cure is simply a byproduct of my larger goal of discovering everything about the syndrome.
また入江機関につきましては最長3年以内をめどに研究の収束を図ってまいります。予算も
ちょっと待ってください。近年ようやくひなみ沢症候群の全貌が分かり、今まさに治療法の研究を進めているところです。確かに研究は日々進んでおりますが、3年という短い期間で確実に完成させられることをお約束はできません。
理事会では入江機関はすでに治療薬について十分な研究を完成させているという認識です。すでに入江機関は治療薬 C117 を完成させ、その臨床データを多数。
いえ、完成なんてとんでもない。まだまだ試薬の域を出ず、村人全員を治療できる目処は全く立っていません。このような段階で研究終了ありきでの議論は全くもって無謀としか言いようがありません。
I'm surprised that Irie objected. Thanks to him, I didn't have to say anything. But if Irie hadn't objected, I'm sure he would have shrieked in protest.
それでは入江機関には現時点では感染者全員を治療し、ひなみ沢症候群を撲滅することは不可能だということですね。
そうです。もちろん村人全員の治療とひなみ沢症候群の撲滅は将来的には不可能なことではありませんし、私もそれを最大の目標にしています。ただそれには十分な時間が必要で、そのためには無論予算も必要です。私たちは調べ、実践し、確立する仕事をしています。設計図に従ってものを作り、期間があれば必ず決まった成果が出せる仕事とは事情が違います。どうかそこを誤解なさらないようにしていただきたいです。
I guess Irie speaks out when he needs to. And what he's saying is absolutely right. Research isn't something guaranteed to produce results with money and time. But I disagree with some of the things he said. He's objecting about the time and the money, but he's basically agreeing to limit our research only towards finding a cure for Hinamizawa syndrome. That won't do. We won't unravel any mysteries that way. At that rate, the discovery of the Hinamizawa syndrome won't be recognized as my grandfather's great achievement.
なるほど。 入江所長のおっしゃることもごもっともと思います。私によって日波沢症候群という特殊現象が研究されていた痕跡と、そもそも存在していた事実についても隠蔽すべきであると考えます。最終的に日波沢症候群が世間に知られることなく撲滅されるならば、そのための期間と予算は必要不可欠なものでしょう。それについては。
はい、依存ありません。
では入江機関はできるだけ早急に日波沢症候群撲滅を秘密裏に行えるプランと予算案を作成提出してください。極力ご指示を汲み取れるよう努力します。
わかりました。早急に提出いたします。
誤解ないようにしていただきたいのは、私どもはあくまでも研究を直ちに中断させようというのではなく、円満な形で研究を終了させようということです。この違いをご理解ください。
ええ、もちろん理解しております。
While I was listening to their conversation, I was struck dumbfounded with something they said. Eradicating the syndrome in secrecy. In other words, it would be as though Hinamizawa syndrome never existed. So my grandfather's name will never be revered by anyone. The sound of rustling papers and hushed proceedings filled the meeting room, but I only heard the ticking clock as I clutched my sweating palms. Uh-oh. Good old Grandpa's not going to get the recognition he deserves even after he's dead.